Have you ever woken up in the morning, looked around your home and thought, is this how life's supposed to feel now? Maybe it's a little too quiet, or maybe, strangely, it's not quiet enough. Too many footsteps, too many decisions made by someone else, too little room for you. If that thought has ever crossed your mind, you're not alone. And if you've ever wondered whether living alone might actually feel better, work better, this video is for you. There's a story we're told, especially as we get older, that independence is for the young. That after 65, 70, 75, we should stay close, move in with family, have someone around just in case. That solitude is something to avoid. But here's the thing, that story isn't true for everyone. In fact, for many people between the ages of 65 and 80, living alone isn't a risk. It's a reward. Not a mistake, but a choice. A bold, quiet, liberating one. So today we're going to talk about 6 deeply honest, often overlooked reasons why living alone at this stage of life might just be one of the best decisions you'll ever make. And no, this isn't about isolation or loneliness. It's about peace, power, and coming home to yourself in the truest way. Let's begin with something simple but incredibly important, the ability to choose. Living alone gives you back a stronger sense of autonomy. For years, maybe decades, you've made compromises. You've considered others first. What to cook, when to eat, what noise level is acceptable, when the lights go out, when the day begins. But when you live alone, the day becomes yours again. You get to decide if breakfast is at 7 a.m. or 10 a.m., if the music plays loud, soft, or not at all, if dinner is leftovers on the couch, or something special you make just for you. Now that might sound small to someone else, but to you, it might feel like freedom, a kind of joy you didn't realize you were missing. When you live with others, even loved ones, it's so easy for your rhythms to get lost. Slowly, suddenly, your days become shaped by someone else's needs. You might feel grateful for the help, but you also start to disappear a little. Linda, a lovely 73-year-old woman I once spoke with, moved in with her son's family after a hip surgery. They were kind. They cooked for her, drove her to appointments, and included her in family dinners. But she noticed something. She stopped playing her favorite jazz records because her grandson said it was too loud. She adjusted her meals to match their schedule, even though her appetite didn't always line up. One night, she realized she hadn't chosen her own bedtime in nearly 3 weeks. When she was healthy enough to return to her apartment, something shifted. She walked differently. She smiled more. She started dancing, yes, dancing, while washing dishes. It wasn't just about being alone. It was about reclaiming her life, one small decision at a time. Living alone gave her back her voice, her preferences, her place in the world. And the best part, she didn't need to explain or apologize to anyone. That kind of autonomy isn't just about control. It's about dignity. It reminds you that you're not just growing older. You're still growing, period. Still choosing, still living. And with that comes something else, something just as powerful, peace. There's a kind of quiet you only get when you're alone in your own space. Not silence that feels cold or empty, but the kind that feels gentle, clean, undisturbed. It's the absence of interruption, the absence of having to brace yourself for noise, requests, or tension. It's the soft sound of your breath, the creak of a chair, the stillness that wraps around you like a blanket. Barbara, a retired teacher now 71, spent 5 years sharing her home with her daughter and 2 energetic grandkids. She loved them truly, but every day brought motion, mass, and movement, questions, spills, toys underfoot, the television always on. By evening, she felt exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. Then one day, her daughter got her own place, and suddenly Barbara had space again, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. She slept deeper. Her digestion improved. She started remembering little things again, like where she put her keys, what day her bills were due, the names of flowers in her garden. She didn't take a new supplement. She didn't change her diet. She simply rested, really rested, in a way she hadn't in years. You see, when you live with others, especially if they're loud, rushed, or just emotionally intense, you absorb it. Even when you're not speaking, even when no one means harm, you carry their moods, their worries, their movement. And over time, you forget how stillness feels. That kind of peace, the kind that seeps into your nervous system and says, "It's okay, you can breathe now," is more powerful than most people realize. And once you feel it, truly feel it, you'll never want to give it up again. And with peace comes rhythm. Your rhythm. That's the next piece to this puzzle. Living alone gives you back the freedom to shape your own routine. No more fitting your day around someone else's schedule. No more adjusting meals, walks, or rest, just to accommodate someone else's needs or plans. You wake when your body wants to wake. You eat when your stomach says it's time. You nap, read, walk, pause when it feels right for you. Frank, a 76-year-old widower, moved in with his nephew's family after a health scare. He thought it would feel comforting, but soon his mornings were rushed with school routines. Meals happened on someone else's clock. There was always background noise. He missed his slow breakfasts, his morning crossword, his quiet afternoon walks. Eventually, he asked to move back to his own place. And within weeks, something remarkable happened. He had more energy. He started painting again. He even slept through the night. Why? Because he got his time back. Not just the hours, but the ownership of them. That freedom to move at your own pace, to live in tune with your own body and needs, it is not selfish. It's soulful. It's how we heal, how we remember who we are, how we keep blooming even after others think we've stopped. And that brings us to something deeper, something that often surprises people. The quiet strength that comes when you realize you can still handle life, maybe even better than before. Because here's the truth most people don't talk about. Living alone can actually build resilience. It proves to you, day by day, task by task, that you're still capable, still grounded, still in charge of your own life. Not because you have to be, but because you choose to be. Let's take something as simple as managing your bills, cooking dinner, or locking your front door at night. Each time you do it yourself, no matter how small, you're telling your mind, "I've still got this." And the more you tell yourself that, the more you believe it. That belief isn't just comforting. It becomes your foundation. Your confidence grows. Your doubts shrink. Eleanor, now 80, had lived with her sister for most of her adult life. When her sister passed, everyone, and I mean everyone, assumed she'd move in with family. But Eleanor did something unexpected. She stayed in the home they had shared. At first, she was scared. The silence felt big. The tasks felt heavy. But she took things one day at a time. She paid her bills. She learned to unclog a drain. She drove herself to the doctor and even remembered to schedule the next appointment. And then something beautiful happened. One afternoon, after returning home from the grocery store, a list she'd made herself, a car she drove alone, she said aloud, "I didn't know I could still do all this." She told me it felt like a switch had flipped inside her. She didn't feel like a burden anymore. She felt strong, capable, alive. Those moments are quiet. They don't make headlines, but they're powerful. They remind you that aging isn't about fading into the background. It's about evolving, stretching, becoming. And when you live alone, you get more of those moments. You give yourself the opportunity to rediscover what you're made of. Not just your skills, but your spirit. Of course, not everyone sees it that way. Some worry that living alone means too much emotional distance, that you'll feel cut off or forgotten. But in reality, it can lead to something you may have missed more than you realized. Peace of mind. Because here's another truth, and it's a big one. When you live alone, you deal with far fewer conflicts, fewer misunderstandings, fewer compromises, fewer tense silences at the dinner table. You're not tiptoeing around someone else's bad day. You're not managing passive-aggressive comments. You're not adjusting your volume, your lighting, your habits, just to keep the peace. Walter, a sharp and witty 78-year-old, moved in with his daughter after a minor fall. She meant well. She wanted to protect him. But over time, the boundaries blurred. Every choice, from what he ate to where he went to whether he could still drive, became a debate. He started to feel like a guest in his own life. Eventually, Walter asked to move into a small apartment in a senior community. Not because he didn't love his family, but because he missed himself. Within weeks, his posture improved, his laughter returned, and one morning, over coffee, he said, "I finally feel like this space belongs to me again." That shift, from being managed to being respected, was everything. You see, living alone doesn't mean shutting people out. It means deciding when and how you want to connect. It means preserving your emotional boundaries, the ones that let you love without losing yourself. When you choose peace, when you protect your energy, the relationships you do keep become stronger, because they're not based on obligation. They're based on choice, presence, joy. And when there's less friction in your day-to-day life, something remarkable starts to happen. You begin to turn inward, not in a sad or lonely way, but in a meaningful one, in a way that reconnects you to something deeper, something you may have forgotten in the rush of family, work, caregiving, and noise, yourself. Because here is something no one tells you when you're younger. The quiet isn't empty. It's full of memories, dreams, reflections, curiosity. When you're no longer constantly explaining yourself or being pulled in a dozen directions, your own voice gets louder, clearer. You begin to hear what you really think, what you still care about, what you want these next years, your years, to look like. George, now 83, had always been surrounded by people he loved. His wife deeply, raised kids, hosted holidays, volunteered, coached, helped neighbors. But when his wife passed and his children moved out of state, George made a choice. He didn't fill the silence. He didn't force himself to join clubs or pack his calendar. Instead, he stayed still. It was uncomfortable at first, but over time, something inside him softened. He began journaling. Then he recorded memories into a little tape recorder his grandson gave him. "One day," he said, "I thought I was alone, but in the quiet, I found someone. I found me." That line still gives me goosebumps, because it's so true, so raw, so real. Living alone isn't about absence. It's about presence. With yourself, with your thoughts, with your life as it actually is, not how others need it to be. And when you give yourself the space to really be, not perform, not please, not adapt, something opens, something beautiful. You remember your old joys. You discover new ones. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's writing. Well, maybe it's just sitting with a cup of tea, watching the light shift across your living room floor and feeling, for once, like there's no rush, no one to answer to, no one to explain, just you, fully here, fully enough. That feeling of grounding, of contentment, of rediscovered self is one of the richest experiences life has to offer. And it doesn't arrive in a noisy house. It comes in stillness. It comes in choosing your own company and realizing it was never lacking. And once you realize that, once you truly feel the richness of your own company, everything begins to shift. You stop looking outward for validation. You stop waiting for someone else to give your day purpose. You start waking up with something lighter in your chest. You begin to trust that you, just as you are enough. In that stillness, in that space you've made for yourself, you don't just find peace. You find meaning. Living alone, especially after 65, is often misunderstood. People imagine it as a lonely hallway of empty hours. But for many, it becomes a kind of unfolding, a quiet return to themselves, It's not about shutting the world out. It's about letting yourself in, letting your needs matter again, letting your time be sacred, letting your space reflect you, not everyone else. That kind of clarity isn't just nice to have. It's necessary. Because the truth is, the world is often loud with opinions about how you should age, what you should want, who you should be close to. But those opinions don't always know you. They don't know your mornings, your pace, your private joys. So what if instead of listening to the noise, you ask yourself a different question? What do you want this chapter of your life to look like, really? Close your eyes for a moment and picture it. Not what others expect, not what your children suggest, not what society labels safe or normal, just what feels right to you. Maybe it's a home where your favorite chair is by the window, where your meals are at whatever hour your appetite whispers, where your music plays without apology, where the only voice you have to accommodate is your own. And maybe, just maybe, that kind of home isn't lonely. Maybe it's healing. Maybe it's powerful. Because let's be honest, you've spent years, maybe most of your life, caring for others. You've raised children, built careers, supported partners, managed households, nursed parents. You've done the giving, the compromising, the adjusting. Isn't it time you gave that same care to yourself? Living alone is one way of doing that. It's not about being selfish. It's about finally having room to breathe, room to remember who you were before all the roles, and room to discover who you are now, with all your wisdom, your scars, your humor, your insight. You've earned this space, every wrinkle, every story, every hard-won boundary. They've led you here, to this moment, to this opportunity to say, this life, this chapter, belongs to me. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, that's okay. Let them think what they will. You know the truth. You know that aging doesn't mean shrinking. It means shedding what no longer serves you. It means stepping into what does. Think of it like this. Now, when you were younger, you were surrounded by noise, of expectation, of activity, of shoulds and musts. And now, finally, you have the choice to trade that noise for quiet, for calm, for clarity. And with that quiet comes presence, depth, a companionship with yourself that's unlike any other. That kind of companionship isn't lesser. It's deeper. Because it's not about filling a void. It's about embracing a fullness that was always there, waiting to be heard. So, if you're watching this and wondering, truly wondering, if living alone is right for you, don't look to the outside world for the answer. Look inward. Ask your body how it feels when the house is quiet. Ask your spirit what it longs for when the day is entirely yours. Ask your heart whether it misses the noise, or whether it's finally exhaling after years of holding its breath. The answers you get may not be loud, but they'll be honest. And honesty, at this stage of life, is the greatest compass you have. If you've been considering this change, this shift towards solitude, let me say this. It's not a retreat. It's not giving up. It's not giving in. It's a return. A return to your rhythm, your essence, your pace. And yes, it might feel unfamiliar at first. It might take time to settle into the silence, to find your footing without constant feedback. But that time is a gift, a luxury, an investment in your own well-being. Because when you build a life on your terms, in your space, at your pace, what you gain isn't just comfort. It's wholeness. It's presence. It's a quiet, steady joy that doesn't depend on anyone else to exist. And that joy, it's not just for a lucky few. It's for you. It's here. It's waiting. All you have to do is trust that your company, your heart, your voice, your presence is more than enough to fill the room. Here's to living on your own terms. Here's to waking up in a space that feels like home because it reflects who you are, not just who others need you to be. To peace, to power, to possibility. Here's to you. If you found something in this video that spoke to you, even just a sentence, a feeling, a small spark of recognition, I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment below and share what you're thinking. What part of this message resonated most with you? What's one thing you might do differently now, or even just think about differently? And if you haven't yet, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It helps us keep making content that's honest, uplifting, and made with you in mind. Thank you for spending this time with me. Wherever you are today, I hope you feel proud of who you are, of how far you've come, and of the life you're still creating, one choice at a time. Take care of yourself, and until next time, here's to living well, living free, and living fully at any age.